also want to select the image, right? One, you guys don't have any post processes. That would be like a conveyor belt here. No worry about that. Don't touch it, right? Always going to be none. One thing is the auto outfeed. So if we ran the machine right now and had this auto outfeed, it's not selected, and we, in the middle of a run, hit that cycle stop button, what will actually happen is it will finish that part, but that part will actually get stuck in the outfeed. So that's where I always recommend, on full honesty, always select that auto outfeed. It does, it will always make sure that once that part is completed, if you're doing it in the middle of the cycle, it will spit it out. Right. There's two options for full speed, so it will shoot out at that 86.6 inches per second, or whatever the wire feed rate is. Again, we'll go into that in a little bit. Personally, I always recommend just doing the wire feed rate. It's just however fast it's feeding into the machine, how fast it's feeding out of the machine. Keeps consistency, and that way it doesn't send a missile basically out of the machine. Yeah, especially on some smaller wire, I have seen approximately it can shoot it like all the way out here.
Yeah.
Right. I mean it will send it if you got it at full speed. So that's why I just recommend wire feed rate. Right. You don't have a label printer, so don't worry about a label printer. And then there's also the batch for this. What we want to look at is specifically between manual and time control. So let's just say, hey, and we'll go into a total of 100 batches of 10, right? If you have it timed, especially at 0 seconds, it will just say finish with batching. Go on to the next one, right? The manual, it will say finish with a batch, and then you will have to press the cycle start again. 10, press the button, 10, press the button. So it just depends on, for some of the longer ones, you will want to do manual. Some of the shorter, if it's a shorter, smaller wire, probably time will be just fine. I had a customer that was doing, that was cutting, I think it was about 2-3 yards of 1/0 manual. One at a time, right? Because then they also have to hang it up, right? Yeah. So they're not rushing, right? Whereas then they also had, it was like a 5-inch, 5 inches of 6 gauge. They need 300. Yeah. They just put a table right there, and it just, hey, batches of 10s or 20s or whatever. It's just boom, there you go. It just go on to the next. Batch done, they swap it out, boom, there you go.
I was gonna ask this, but when you press, like if this is running your stuff, you press stop, is it gonna do that full piece first, or will it stop right then and there?
It will finish that full piece first. Only if you hit that E-stop, it will completely stop. Yes, yeah. So it's recommended if you're going to break and nothing's wrong with the machine, you don't notice any issue, hit that cycle stop, and then you can go away from the machine. If you do notice, hey, it's jamming, don't hit the cycle stop. Slam the E-stop. Yeah. Obviously, don't slam. You get what I mean.
So what happens if you open up the door, Eric?
Oh, yeah. Open up the main guard.
Well, as far as open up the guard, how does that affect your cycle count?
Oh yeah, it'll stop.
He did check.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, I'm playing devil's
Hey, safety first.
He's ahead of me, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. First thing is safety.
Right,
always go over that.
Safety.
Scrap drawer, E-stops. Yeah. Main guard.
Well, I just meant as far as count goes. What they've got to do is go back and get the count back.
Oh, right. Yeah, because
on that topic.
It shouldn't count that main part until it's actually fully complete through the cut. So if there is a part that, because of the auto outfeed, if it halfway through the auto outfeed, that's when you notice that you open up the guard, you hit that E-stop, it will still count that part that is hanging in there. So then when you turn it back on, it should just, and then your count will be accurate. You shouldn't have it, for the most part, if it's only like halfway through, it shouldn't count it until it actually makes that cut and strip on that tail side, right? Lastly is that strip adjust. So if you notice, like if you're making a strip, let's just say it's a 1-inch strip, and you're actually getting on the lead side like a 1.05, right? It's just a little bit off, and that's not within your spec, right? You can make that little strip adjust specifically just on that lead side for this singular part. Remember, it's just for this part, not for the entire every part on this machine. Same with the tail side, and then that will just pay. You know, you got a range of, I believe. Oh yeah, the strip compensation. Actually, the strip compensation will be within the machine settings on the strip, but at that point, I would I would recommend getting maintenance and kind of just going over the issues with them, and they'll smooth those out for you guys, you know? So I wouldn't worry about that then. Right. So that's just for setting up a part, right? So right now we're on that test wire, you know, hey, you have your overall length on top. If you ever are questioning, okay, what is this value again? You can kind of hover over and it'll say, hey, this is the lead strip. This is the wire diameter. This is the overall length, right? It'll just to keep accurate for that. And again, you know, if it says inch right there, you are in standard. If it says millimeter, you are in metric. So yeah, you have your wire diameter. Again, the wire diameter here is actually the ID of the wire, the inner dimension, not the OD, the outside. We want the ID, right? And especially on a cable like this, I mean, right? We just want to make sure, and we'll go through how to, you know, test it and kind of get that more accurate. But if you have a caliper, you know, that's always a good way to check that.
So are you just measure from like this gap, or would you measure from end to end on the inside?
End to end on the inside, right? Because, and especially with all the cabling.
And that's what you type in there?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, that's what I would consider the ID. And then your actual insulation on the outside here, bottom to top, that's your OD, which is important. And we'll get into that when we get into the wire properties, right? But I want to